Initially, at an early age, I was never much of a reader. Right? My mom would always push me to read, but the stuff that they would give us to read, I just wasn't interested in it. But however, from an early age, I'd always watch documentaries or speeches or anything in that regard, or just anything like that. For example, I remember when I was really, I believe, between the and probably 8, my parents didn't allow me to watch SpongeBob and stuff like that. So while all other kids would be watching SpongeBob on like a Saturday morning, what I'll be watching would be Nat Geo or the Animal Planet or stuff like that, right? And when I tell people now that that's what I used to be watching when I was younger, they'll be like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just like those stuff." You get me? And that influenced my journey constantly. Um, in regards to reading in Jamaica, people, well, persons within my age group aren't interested in these topics, right? They're not interested in um, the social matters of the world. They are very reactionary, right? So basically something has to happen first before they give an analysis of something, and after it happens, it's just like 2 to 3 days of outrage, probably a paragraph or two on probably Twitter or something, and then normal, right? There are no organized protests. There is nothing like that. And I blame that partly on the education system, as well as the whole colonial structure that Jamaica has. So basically, if I were to ask at least half of the people within my age group or younger to tell me um who Kim Kardashian dated when she was 17, they could tell me. But if I were to ask them who led the 1983 to 87 revolution in Burkina Faso, they couldn't tell me. If I asked them who Jomo Kenyatta was, they couldn't tell me. Who Nkrumah was, they couldn't tell me. If I've asked them about their own Jamaican liberators, such as the great poet Langston Hughes and people like that, they couldn't tell me. And I've always found that quite fascinating because the people who are supposed to be educated, right? The supposed educated people that go abroad to study, they themselves denote and dilute the traditions of those who liberated us in early years and have sold us out for the imperialist and capitalist structure. And that, I would say, has relayed onto us as young people, seeing that that is probably what is the best route. Which is why when you ask people certain questions nowadays, based on the answers, you can tell where the politics lies, right? And it's just sad, honestly. And as well, there aren't many reading or bookstores in Jamaica. For me, I have to order my books from abroad. It's kind of it's I'd say it's very expensive, but expenses don't really matter when it's something you love. So Jamaica does not have a reading scene or a book scene or a liberation reading scene or a revolutionary reading scene. It's mostly like novels or poetry or stuff like that, which are important as well, but we need to add to that as well, right? Um, I probably it was on my resolution list for the year 2021, as well as writing this book, that in the future I would probably open a bookstore, but it would only be books in regards to like spirituality, religion, philosophy, and politics, right? And yeah, I would love to start a, 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 a revolutionary book reading scene because as it stands right now, we definitely don't have one. And for the few people I know who are involved in this kind of stuff. They themselves have been wanting one for the longest time, but have been unable to get it. And for some, it's too expensive to buy books from, let's say, Amazon or thrift books or Barnes and Noble and others to ship to Jamaica, where you'd have to pay another expense. It's very disheartening for some, especially if they're trying but can't. So yeah, I really really would love to start one, and I'd implore the government, but I know they are going to do that, because as Asata Shakur has said in her biography, that the tools to overthrow the ruling class will never be given to you. You have to take it upon your own to find the means and ways to liberate yourselves from oppression, because it will never be given to you. Biggest influence, the great Malcolm X. My parents and friends can tell you, I love Malcolm X. He's the person that got me started on this journey of mine. I listened to one of his speeches. You can't hate the roots of the tree and not hate the tree. And ever since then, I've just the Black Revolution, his speech on the Black Revolution is another excellent one that I would implore anyone to listen to. As well as Kwame Nkrumah. I didn't know this wonderful man until like probably late 2020. And since I have found Nkrumah, his rhetorical analysis of the conditions within the diaspora have been profound, and I've left and I can't even explain it. Ahmad Sekou Touré, which many people don't know, from Guinea, another profound leader who has left a very big impact upon my life. Marcus Garvey, definitely. Thomas Sankara, the upright man, the simple man. He's probably the personification of the kind of leader that I would like to be, right? In regards to what he did in Burkina Faso, selling all of the luxury cars and forbidding the politicians to travel first class when they're just like everyone else, stuff like that, right? Who else? I would say, in regards to history, Sheikh Anta Diop, excellent historian. His books, The Myths of African Civilization, Myth or Reality, and Civilization or Barbarianism, one of the first two books I read via my laptop. Also, Basil Davidson is an excellent historian. I'm currently reading his book, Africa in History. I've read his book, Africa or the African Slave Trade. Also in history, I would recommend Ali Mazrui, Africa, a Triple Heritage, stuff like that. In regards to philosophy, as I've said, Marx, Engels, all the dialectical materialists, Socrates, the African philosophy, Theophile Obenga, yeah, as well as Eastern philosophy, because for me, I engage in all kinds of thought, right? I don't limit myself to, even though I'm a Pan-Africanist and my goal is for Africa to rise at any cost, I would also consider myself, or I would want to become an intellectual. And to become an intellectual, you have to engage in all kinds of philosophical thought or political thought. And if you don't, it's anti-intellectualism. So I engage with the thought, and whatever I can use to liberate the minds of my people and our people, I don't see the problem in regards to that. But first and foremost, we're Africans, and Africans always. Also, I would throw, let's say, Julius Nyerere in there. His book on socialism, or what he calls Ujamaa, excellent reading. It's very long though, very, very long. It's very long. And let's
That's
not
great.
forget Dr. Cornel West. He's a brilliant man. He's probably one of the first Christian revolutionaries that I have seen speak the way he does. Normally, I hear religious figures very passive, you know, and for him, he's where I got the saying "speak truth to power" from. Yeah, and W.E.B. Du Bois, excellent as well. But as I said, I could go on forever. So